Welcome to the Defining Her Story podcast, where we bring together amazing women to discuss hot topics and spotlight the accomplishments of women from all walks of life.
Let's go. Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Defining Her Story talk show. I have some fabulous guests with me today, which I'll introduce in just a minute. First, I want to remind you guys, this is an interactive talk show. So giving us some thumbs up, some hearts to let us know that you're actually there and watching with us, saying hello. When we ask questions here at the panel, keep in mind that those questions are to you as well. So answering those down in the comments, that way we can read and respond to you. Hi, Sol, good morning. Thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions for the panel, again, please feel free to do that down there in the comment section. As well as if you're catching this on the replay, again, they've been tagged in the post, so that way they'll know when those questions are there and can answer it. So, without further ado, number one, by the way, we are at the Hotel Island. Thank you so much to Christina, who is with the Hotel Island, for being our location sponsor today, as well as the conference that we'll talk about later today. But so if we could just go ahead and go around the group and introduce ourselves.
Sure. I'm Christina Dunn-Scott, Director of Sales for Hotel Island.
I am Nancy Sabino. I'm CEO and co-founder of Sabino CompTech, the awesome IT firm.
And I'm Lorianne Reaves, also CEO of my company, helping entrepreneurs with sales and growing their business, especially women. Also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, and so I do all the psychological stuff that's running around underneath there, around money especially. So I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we are very honored to have you with us as well as we kind of discuss what we're the topic today. And the topic is power and money, and really delving into a lot of how we can be winners, but how women tend to interact with those particular areas. There's definitely a difference between the way that men view and deal with power and money and the way that women, we were even talking earlier before we went on air, Nancy was talking about Michelle Obama and her kind of recognition of the power that she had. So good morning, Erin. Thanks so much for joining us. So the first question that I want to ask everyone is, like, what are some of the hang-ups that you have about power, or about money, or about both? What are some of the hang-ups that you guys have got?
Personally, for ourselves?
Yeah, personally, or even like what, because you work with people about it. So
and a lot of women. I work with a lot of women, so I'll just stick with the women topic around this. So I find power and money the two biggest areas women struggle with. Because they think of both of them from a negative viewpoint. You know, if I make money, you know, I'm worshiping it, or, you know, I just want to serve instead of make money. And the idea of power is, like, sometimes it's very negative, that it's power, or they think of it as power over, instead of just standing in who they are and taking their place in the world. In that, when you serve at the highest level, you should make awesome money too.
Absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Nancy? Any hang-ups?
My hang-ups really have to deal with kind of like feeling like I have to bring it down, be level-headed, or not let it go to my head, and that kind of thing. So that aspect for me has always been the other side of it. Is I've always enjoyed having power and money, especially as an adult, because I didn't have it as a child. But especially earning it for myself, that was always something that for me was always important. But it's always been on the opposite end of, don't let it get to your head, or something like that.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
And just to piggyback a little bit what you were saying, I would agree. For me, it's mostly like, you know, just not letting it change who you are, because, you know, whenever, you know, when we started where we didn't have money and power and those kind of things, you know, you have to remember who you were then, and just keep that mindset, you know, as you're working with people that, you know, now that when you were in that same situation. So
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, piggybacking on that, is that really money and power, if you are already a good character, just brings out the best in you, because what you want to leave is a legacy behind, not only in the business you create, for your family, for your community. And if you're a jerk, you're just going to become more of a jerk. And I'm just going to say it.
That's so true. Like my hang up, and I really came to terms with my hang-ups about money. At the beginning of last year, I joined this group that was starting at the beginning of the year doing the Napoleon Hill's, I can't remember, Grow Rich Now. And so like there's this part where you have to declare how much money you want to make. And so I was having some like angst about that, because when growing up for me, and I know that, trust me, I know that this is the wrong quote. It doesn't matter. This is how I grew up. Is that money is the root of all evil.
Right.
And so growing up with that, then my wanting money was then meaning that I was evil. And so having somebody in the group do exactly what he says, like, no, money is an amplifier.
Right.
So if you want to do good with it, you will be able to amplify the good that you want to do. If you are wanting to do evil with it, it will amplify the evil.
Right.
And the same thing I think too is with power.
Absolutely.
And so it's just, and Erin says, women, and yes, Erin, women have been conditioned to think that power and money belongs in the male realm, where I'm sure they would really like it to stay, and it's acceptable there. Sorry, I don't really mean to bash men at all. Sorry, guys. Too much of either intimidates some men, so you're taught to hold back. And there is this too, like negative relationship or negative correlation with women in power who are seen as being negative.
Right, because then you're not nice.
Right.
Oh, you're not nice. And if you step into who you should be, before I stepped into the role I have now, I was a marriage and family therapist for 17 years and had a clinical practice. And I'm here to tell you, men regret at the end of their life not spending more time with their family. But women regret not being who they should have been. And it is powerful to hear older women talk about that. And so with the work I do now is, it's not evil. Money's just an energetic exchange for goods and services. Right. We're the ones that put that meaning on it. It's really not a dirty word.
So where do you think, and where do you think like some of these hang-ups come from?
Well, with women, just even when I grew up, you could be a nurse or a teacher. You had specified roles. Men were considered the breadwinner, and you were extra income if you did work. And I was one of those that my mother never knew what to do with me because I didn't want those roles. And so, which I'm so glad now. But it was a real struggle. But it starts culturally, and it starts in your family, and it doesn't. And then any experience you have after that, whether you end up in a good marriage, a bad marriage, or bankruptcy, or anything that can happen, just amplifies what happened as a kid and what you heard. We get really imprinted back then around money and about power.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So my parents were divorced, and so I grew up with a single mom, but both of them very humble beginnings as immigrants to this country. And so we grew up with almost nothing. It was times where we would go without food and so on and so forth. So I'm definitely very humble beginnings. So that definitely affected how I saw money.
Sure.
To the point where when I had my first child, I couldn't afford daycare. So I stayed home for the first few months of her life, and I would not spend a dime more than I had to. And my husband kept saying, if you want to buy yourself something, buy it. It's our money. It's not my money. Right. You work for it just like I do in the home and taking care of our child. And I would refuse to spend money. And so eventually we worked through that, and I started making my own money and so on and so forth. And it made me feel more comfortable. Right. But it was like, nope, I don't want to do that. I don't.
All from the way your folks,
Yeah, all from how they
folks,
handled money themselves.
Yeah,
so
it's so imprinted.
And now, one thing that we do differently is we tell our kids, you have to respect money.
Yes.
That is one thing that we tell them, as opposed to it's evil, or you should just, it grows on trees, whatever. But you should respect money is something that we actually just had this conversation with our son on Sunday. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
So and I'm just kind of wondering too, because you brought up, you know, like the expected roles and jobs for women. Back when, even like when I was in high school, versus now, I'm just kind of wondering, is this something that just, are we seeing an end to that cycle, or is it really knows like it's a cycle that just keeps repeating itself, no matter what generation we're looking at?
So I'm older than everyone here, and I'm appalled at the things we're renegotiating and still negotiating, and so that's really a disappointment. But at other ends, though, there are a lot of things that have changed. Women are not slated just to teachers and nurses, and if you want to be a teacher or nurse, fantastic. And so that playing field has leveled off. We're still though making less money than men for some of the same
those are
jobs.
the jobs that need to make more money.
Right. I totally agree. But there's for girls, I wanted to make a comment on that. It's called I don't know if you use this terminology with all the work you do, it's called the middle school clique. And at that point is when a lot of outside culture takes over for girls. If they've not in grammar school, at the early grades, been imprinted with technology, equal opportunity for money, entrepreneurship, all the things that are possible outside of their smaller world. And if they don't have strong confidence then, when they go into middle school and we get all the boy-girl stuff and the clique happens, you know, and in clique I mean just that term suddenly. Being a brave, sports-minded girl, all of a sudden she likes this boy in 7th grade and we don't know her anymore.
Exactly. Well, that their confidence level goes down.
Right.
So
grammar school becomes so important, and we don't really do a good job yet of technology and confidence and money, not just money management, but that money is respected and you can make as much money. We're just not doing that work as well earlier, I think.
I was going to say, and I think you're
there's
right
a lot
with
of
that.
research that supports that also.
No, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree, and that's one of, because there is that middle school clique. That's why I've chosen to kind of like at least come in there. It's like, okay, this is where we really are starting to see that drop. So to kind of come in there and work with the teen girls in those areas. So I just was looking to, good morning, Carol and Michelle and Tara. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you guys, Lonnie, for joining us. Again, if you've got questions, that kind of thing, pop them in there, or comments as well. Pop those in the comments so that way we can share your thoughts here with the panel. So I know that you said that you work mostly with women, but you obviously still work with guys as well.
I do.
Do you see, are there similarities between our hang-ups with power and money, or no, there are some things that are unique to women?
There are things unique to women. There is, but we all suffer at our families for money stories, men and women. So that the gender doesn't matter then. I had a guy one time that he could get to about $75,000 in his own business, and then something drastic would happen. And when it happened the second time, it was getting ready to happen the third time. I said, whoa. You know, no, this is more of a psychological thing, guys. You know, and it was. His father never made more than $75,000 a year, and he was so loyal to him unconsciously that he couldn't get over it. And there are two things that happen when people do that, whether they're men or women, is who are you loyal to? He was loyal to his father, and that sometimes you're more committed to the struggle than you are to the success.
Wow.
And so those two things happen with men and women. Women don't, this is what women do in their own business, I'll speak to that. They just want to be the best they are, whether they're a health coach or they're social media or manager of a hotel, president of a top company. They just want to do the best.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do sales. They don't want to make the money. They don't want to, and they don't want to learn about business. And really what I try to teach my folks is the first title you have is business owner. Then you're everything else. And you just happen to earn your money through your expertise. but it's a hard switch for women. They just want to serve, and serving doesn't get you to pay the bills.
No, it doesn't.
So I want you to do both, ladies. Please.
Exactly. And so, because Lorianne's brought up like a lot of our hangups about money are related to the stories that we have, the upbringing. So if you guys could share, if you're willing to, share some of the stories that you had about power or about money in the comments, so that way we can kind of discuss those as well. And along with discussing that, for me, it was like the other day I was telling the group before we went live that I've been sharing some statistics about women and money. Another one that is like, if you take recent graduates from college, man and a woman, and they go out for the same job, she's already starting at a lower salary than her male counterpart. And then that just kind of continues as you go up, because again, if you have a lower starting place, then it's harder for you to catch up. And for me, instead of, well, good morning, Sarah Beth from Phoenix. Thank you for joining us. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, instead of, I don't want to come across as like whining about statistics. I more want to be like, okay, so where is that? What is it that we need to help with ourselves and with girls who are getting ready, who are graduating from college, and actually they're not girls at that point, they're young women who are graduating from college and going for jobs and those kinds of things, getting them the confidence and the skills, because I'm like, it's all about negotiation skills. I think that's
we accept the first offer.
Right.
Because we're nice girls.
Right.
And I want to be a nice girl, but I also want the money. So just right, ladies?
Yeah, that assertiveness.
Yeah. But it's a negotiation. We just accept the first offer. We don't do enough research to say, what else can you offer me? Because, I might make them mad. And so we hurt ourselves, but the culture hurts us also. So we just can't wait. We just, if we can help anybody, like your teens, negotiation skills and knowing that you can ask the next question.
Right.
And I teach my entrepreneurs to always ask the next question. If someone tells them no for a contract, I go, would you know anybody else that can help me? It's always that next question that helps you, from a female perspective, to really be negotiating at that point. Saying, well, if you can't help me, who else do you know? But you said it nicely, and you're still moving your business forward and yourself forward. And we don't teach that. And we don't teach the right language, so people think it has to be rough like a man, and it doesn't.
Right.
It can still be us standing in who we are. So.
I have brought a contract that I was losing back on my side just by asking the question of, if you're not okay with this number, what number are you okay with?
Right.
And that kind of started the conversation of value, and that was the difference, and how his number was way low, obviously.
Yes, of course.
And then it was like, okay, well, if that's what you want for that number, then this is what you're going to get. So is that what you want? And kind of bringing that conversation back.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But I have a story when it comes to negotiating.
Sure.
So I was accepted into the Goldman Sachs program back in 2015, and one of their clinics is negotiations. And during this negotiation, my partner was this gentleman who absolutely intimidated me to no end. And of course, it was my luck to get him as a partner during the negotiations, and I left that day in tears, just in tears. And not because of the conversation that we had or the actual negotiation, but because what I learned was that I didn't value myself as much as I should have. And that's, I think, where it starts. And ever since then, I was like, nope, I will never, ever, ever not see my own value to the point where I will let somebody else take advantage of me.
No, absolutely.
It's a great lesson, and it's a lesson a lot of women don't learn. So congratulations, really. It's a tough one. To stand in your value, and that's really what power is to stand in your value.
Absolutely, and I think also too to have confidence in that, because I know, like, when I was out having a meeting with a prospective client. This was with our videography company, and so of course, I'm great up until he's like, okay, so how much does all of this cost? And that's when I'm kind of like, you know, in him and Han, and did not secure him as a client.
Right.
And I'm surprised that I did. I'm like, at the time, I'm really surprised that I did it. I said, okay, so I totally honor and respect that.
Mm-hmm.
I need some feedback. Why did you decide no? And he said, honestly, and I was like, yes, please. I'm embracing myself. He said, it was your lack of confidence in your bid that made me not confident in you. And
right, and whether you could have delivered.
Exactly.
Because of your lack of confidence.
Exactly.
It's a real problem.
That was just, that hit me like whole. It was a good lesson to learn as well. It's just kind of like, okay, if this is your number, then that's okay. And learning all of the things, like that number isn't just what you're doing there at that day. It's, you know, and it's for all of us to kind of think about. It's like, it's everything that you're bringing to the table. You know, it's the fact that you are the one who's gonna, that you're gonna show up on time, that your equipment is gonna work. What do you mean when the equipment is not working? Yay. Sorry, you guys missed the whole like equipment not working. Although if you've been with me for a while, you know, like the last time, like the microphone didn't work at the beginning. By the way, Sarah Beth said, "Preach with negotiation," and that's one of the things that I was going to ask you, because that is something that within Nerdy Girl Success, I'm really starting to develop some programming for teen girls and their parents along with that. Is because I think that starting them at home, negotiating at home with stuff that they can negotiate.
Yeah,
and even like in teaching, like with the teacher, like what you can negotiate with your teacher.
Right.
Then when they go to that job, it's a no-brainer. Well, of course I'm going to negotiate this. That's what you do. You negotiate.
That's
so
right.
what would be like one tip that you could share with parents who are out there right now to help foster that negotiation skill with their girls and with their kids?
You know, parents are busy, so the first word is no a lot of times, and so that would be the one thing I would say. I know you've got to get control of your kids, make life work for you. So I don't want to dismiss that, but at the same time, it's so important when your kids are, you know, starting. I would start them as young as first grade, but third grade for sure, that there's some negotiation power around chores and, you know, giving them a choice. When they're really young, giving them a choice so they know they have a choice, and that when a teacher, if they feel wronged at school, that they have choices. And so I think the first thing is to help your kids understand they have choices. And that's the first baseline of negotiation, because like when you're in a negotiation, if you don't think you have a choice, you will lose the contract. And one thing I wanted to say about pricing to you is your pricing is your calling card to the world how you value yourself. So a lot of women will negotiate down, and I always try to teach my folks, hold the line, because that's your value. And so it's your calling card to the world. That's why the guy said that to you.
Yeah.
You know? So you have to hold that. So one other statistic I think we should talk about is for women entrepreneurs, only 10% of women entrepreneurs make $100,000 a year. It's a really sad statistic.
Yeah.
And then only 1% make over $1 million, and 4% are in between. And so all the money, even in entrepreneurship, is going to men. And mergers and acquisitions, the same thing. Money for companies, for you to grow your company. The loan rate and startup rate is like less than 4%. So women, we really have to negotiate our place at the table. And I think that's the most important thing. So when you start with your children, giving them choices, they feel like they have a place at the table.
Nice. And that is true. I mean, that is when you said that about, like, you know, you feel like you don't have a choice, then, you know, you've already lost.
Right.
And I think a lot of times too that is huge with when we go to, like, when you're going there in your interview, you don't feel like you have any choices.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. And Amanda Sanchez said, so true, our childhood influences our relationship with money. Absolutely. And Rebecca said, definitely, I have a friend who allows their kids to negotiate their raises and their allowances. Nice.
I like that.
Nice. Would they like to adopt me? Because
I like that. I used to say to my son, he's 28 now, I used to say, you're so lucky, of course, and then I would say, I want to be you with parents like me.
Yeah.
That didn't happen that way back
Right,
then.
I know. It's like, you get, the choice was, you get it,
Right.
or you don't.
That's right. And some things are non-negotiable.
Exactly.
Safety, schoolwork,
Yeah.
there are things that are non-negotiable. But there's so many other small things as parents that we can teach our kids negotiation skills
Right.
in those other areas.
And I think it's important too to teach kids then that there are areas that for them should be non-negotiable areas. Like,
Right.
nope, sorry, like this is not going to be something that I'm going to negotiate away from. That kind of thing when it comes to a job, when it comes to being in a relationship, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You know? Any other?
Well,
sorry,
I
interrupted you.
definitely agree with all of this. I have a middle school daughter. She's
Uh-huh.
now the little one that I was talking about earlier. She's now 13 and in 7th grade, and she came back one day with like a low grade, and she was upset because obviously that's not her and not what she likes. And she had already felt defeated, and she was talking about how it's going to bring her entire grade point average down and so on and so forth. So I asked her, well, did you ask your teacher what else you can do?
Right.
And she said, no, but I will tomorrow. I said, well,
You're
great.
raising her
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
I was
that's great.
That, you should do that. And ever since then, every time that something like that happens, she realizes, well, there are choices. I just need to ask.
Right.
I need to ask about it and be vocal and ask, what else can I do? If this is final, that's fine, but what else can I do to help myself?
Right.
And that's, I think, powerful
'Cause it's
for
usually-
her to know, because I didn't know that back then. So, yeah.
Well, and knowing that it's okay, and I'm a former teacher, so just don't blast me here, okay? But because there are some teachers that aren't cool with it, but knowing that she has the opportunity to go and question her teacher about that, like a lot of times, like that isn't something that's seen as being okay, you know, that it isn't okay for me to go and even ask, like, are we sure that, why did I get this wrong? Like, why is this a wrong answer? That kind of thing. So, and because again, I think that's teaching them some negotiation skills or that confidence kind of thing, and just like, no, that's not, I don't think that I'm right, I don't think that I'm wrong here, that kind of thing.
So it's just respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I think a kid has a right to ask in it. So kudos to your daughter. Yeah, absolutely.
So are there any other questions? Because we're getting ready to wrap up. So if you've got any other questions, go ahead and stick them in there in the comment section while we're waiting for, if you guys have any questions. I'm going to give Christine, who's been a little quiet, the opportunity
I was going to say one thing.
Yes! Did you kind of just like bust in the
I know.
conversation?
Always trying to talk about
No, just don't.
For me, the advice that I would give parents, especially with girls, is building their self-esteem. I think that for me personally, growing up was one of my biggest struggles, and if I could, if I had a daughter, and I do have a son, and that's one thing I do, is I constantly try to build him up, and he is quite the negotiator, but because he has that self-esteem, he is self-assured, I give him a voice, to where he feels heard, of course, and respectful, having those boundaries, those kind of things. So just, especially with your girls, build that self-esteem.
I agree with that. I have one of each, and I have to tell you, my son's self-esteem is naturally up here, and for my daughter, it's like, come on, you are awesome.
Exactly.
You
That's
just
the culture.
need to let it out.
Yeah, I was
It's
just
the
gonna say,
culture.
it is, and it's a lot. And the older that they get, I noticed, like with the teen girls when I was working with them, when I was a teacher, it's just that again, it's like, it's not just, parents were at home, and again, that's one of the things too, it's kind of like, well, you're my parent, you have to say that. You know what I mean? I'm like, Grant, I said it to my mom, I had kids, I hadn't even had kids, and I say kids, they were my students, I don't have any kids. So the kids would say to me when I would say something like that, well, you're supposed to say that, you're my teacher. No, I'm not supposed to say that to you. But it's those kinds of things, it's getting them to learn how to recognize it within themselves, because they've got so much of things coming at them from society, and even more so it isn't just TV shows, magazines, and songs, and movies. It's now all of the stuff that's on social media and everything. It's just they're bombarded with, people saying one thing about them, but society showing them that
Something
isn't
else.
okay. Exactly. So, Sarah Beth says, exactly. And that's kind of the philosophy that I go at Sarah Beth is the worst they can say is no, you know, and that's okay too. For sure. I mean, like, again, it's not like, you know, it's the end of the world or anything like that. So Christina, if you want to tell us a little bit about the Hotel Island, because this is, guys, if you haven't been here, it is an amazing, amazing place. So Christina, tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. Hotel Island is a boutique hotel. We are situated across from the NRG Stadium and just minutes away from Houston's Medical Center. It's a hotel where you'll find, you know, a lot of modern details while having all the comforts of home. You know, just a very good combination of that. But more importantly, what really defines Hotel Island is our charitable spirit and our commitment to giving back. We really thrive and we really value working with, you know, local businesses, nonprofit organizations. We provide space for our local artists to display their art. So, you know, we just really try and, you know, just that's really what defines us, is just, you know, our commitment to giving back. Whenever our guests stay here, you know that your money is going to something, you know, more than just, you know, an owner's profit. You know, they really truly, you know, reinvest that money. They, you know, we, you know, give that money, you know, part of those portions to charity and different things like that. So, you know, when you stay here, you know you're doing good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is everything about this hotel. There's a way in which it's giving back to a different charity. And what I'm going to do is after the show, I'm going to actually go and take some little clips and show you some of the things and the charities that they are giving back to around the world. Nancy, you got anything coming up, going on, exciting stuff?
Yeah, well, after I leave here today, I will be doing a webcast for the MSP 501. We won third place of MSP of the year last year, so I'm hoping that we'll be earning something along those lines again. So I'm doing that webcast this afternoon. But beyond that, we are an IT firm and we specialize in cybersecurity as well as compliance. So if you are a healthcare, law, or an accounting firm and you have to abide by, well, you do have to abide by the compliance by the federal regulations, I am happy to do a free business review with you. And you can go to our website, sabinocomptech.com, and request a free consultation for that.
Awesome. What about you, Lorianne? When people want to, if people here are wanting to like step into their power and get some more money, how can they contact you?
Well, they can go to my website, LorianneReaves.com, and get on my schedule. Be glad to do a free strategy call with you. I'm also speaking at the end of the month on the 28th at NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners, all about sales, how to increase your sales and understanding the psychology of sales so you can do it in your own authentic way, and not feel like you're the used car salesperson. And also in the middle of the month, I'm doing a workshop on how to build your leadership DNA, and how to, you know, really take your place in the world, whether you're in corporate or an entrepreneur, and you know, put your stuff out there, be visible.
That is awesome. And on Friday, Nerdy Girl Success is having our women's conference here at the Hotel Island. There's about 10 tickets left, and that's also a fundraiser. So the ticket registration, when you go to bit.ly it's bit.ly/donate, the number 2, and then NGS, and it's a capital D and then capital NGS. That donation is actually going towards the after-school programs that we do with teen girls. So you are interested in doing that, we've got the topic again is power and money. We've got 2 fantastic speakers again who are going to be here helping us harness that and step into our power and gain more money. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone who checked into the video. We appreciate it so much. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Defining Her Story podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and review. These help us get found by amazing listeners just like you. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, let us know. Just send us a text at 954-637-3475. You can also head on over to nerdygirlsuccess.com to see what events we have coming up and to see about bringing them to your area. Thank you to our sponsors of this podcast, Wooshka and WeVideo. Music for this podcast provided by bensounds.com.